Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the lab number 108FP1. This is a package of driver springs that are used in certain types of cylinder construction. This is a bag of 100. When you buy one, you'll be purchasing a bag of 100 pieces. That's the multiple in which these are sold. I'm going to take one out, take a look at it. Of course, it's a very small spring. Not the smallest spring that you'll encounter, but pretty close. Okay, they say that this is a phosphor bronze spring, and you obviously can't see much of that on the camera, but I'll give you a couple of basic dimensional properties just for the sake of doing so. Obviously it's a spring, so we're going to kind of estimate that overall length. The name lab is synonymous with locksmithing components, pins and springs, quite frankly, very common. I use lab products often. I'm just trying to measure this here, see how close I can get it in the caliper. I'm going to say it's about 0.375 overall length, about 0.375, and outside diameter. Not that this really matters, but we're just archiving the data. 0.106 diameter, 0.106 outside diameter. I would say that if we can pinch the wire here, the wire diameter might be 0.014 diameter. There is information in the extended description down below. Let's switch to the screen view where we can take a look at that. Okay, this is the item that we're looking at here. The extended description tells us phosphor bronze. This will be for small format work, Arrow and Falcon IC. Be mindful, it doesn't list best. Schlage small format and Medico Keymark, that's their small format. Sold as 100. When you buy one, we'll send you 100. Now, let's get to where we can look at some additional information. The manufacturer's page here will allow us to review the product catalog. Go ahead and pull that up. And we'll search for the 108FP1, and we'll certainly find the page where the springs, caps, shims, and parts are listed. A couple of pages of springs alone. And the 108FP1 comes up on page 5. Okay. Now the P and the V, that's a vial, a plastic vial, and that's a package. The only difference there is the packaging, and very likely the actual cost, your cost, is going to be marginally different. I prefer vials because I can stack them easier in a small box and look at the labeling that's on the top of the unit, but you know, pick your own. IC core short. Okay, so that's be mindful that that spring is designed to be specific for the application. IC core long, you know, best style. You simply don't want to use the wrong spring. While it may work and you may get some operation out of it, in the long term it will substantially serve to degrade the installation. You could just notice, just if we looked at this, the best style spring for small format is noticeably longer. The problem with using a longer spring is that you're going to, because of your stack, your pin stack height, you're going to run the risk of blowing your spring cover out of the top of the cylinder. So be mindful to use the correct spring for your application. I have a lab kit for small format, and I routinely I will pin Falcon small format, and I will buy these springs for my personal kit. I have also an Emerald, a Lab Emerald, so I'm going to be using the standard springs for those as well. Okay, so since we're in this catalog already, you can review not only all of the springs, caps, shims, and parts, but the entire product catalog. And suffice it to say that the catalog is comprehensive when it comes to locksmithing componentry, pins and springs, obviously. Lab is a manufacturer for many OEMs, for many manufacturers. Pinning supplies are actually manufactured by Lab. I know that Lab does manufacturing for many, many companies, not for everyone in the world. There's actually, it's either Abloy or ASA, and they're high security. Well, I would think it'd have to be ASA, not Abloy. ASA has a pin tumbler system. The Abloy is a disc or a disc system, and I don't believe that Lab makes that material, because I read in a ASA technical manual or somewhere that Lab was unable to maintain the very fine tolerances to make the pins required for those extremely tight tolerance ASA cylinders. The twin, the V10, etc., the 6000, etc., etc., etc. I personally find, I can't speak to that matter whatsoever, but I personally find the repeatability of the Lab product to be all but virtually perfect. I may have found one funny pin one time in 3 decades of working with Lab equipment. So be mindful. Now, having said that, you can't use Lab equipment to pin every possible cylinder. I have some experience with Corbin Master Ring. There is not a Lab kit that will do Corbin Master Ring correctly. While you can make it work, it's certainly wrong when you're making something work in the locksmithing world. You have to have the right original equipment, or the system will not operate as designed, potentially not operate as designed. So great catalog here. Let's finish up this video on camera. So the name Lab is synonymous with very high quality componentry, springs, pins, things of that nature. I think every lock shop has a Lab pin kit. It is certainly very good work for garden variety pinning work, but if you're getting into something a bit less mainstream, so to speak, you'll certainly want to be working with factory original material. As I said earlier with the Corbin Master Ring example, they just don't have the length of pins that you require to do the job correctly. It's a much larger diameter. It's almost, it's 40% larger diameter cylinder. Etc. If you have experience in high security, you're using those factory original material. But the Lab kit is super, super nice. That Emerald wedge. I have an Emerald wedge. I've owned a few of them. Actually, they have an ASA 6000 kit in that catalog. And a funny story about my Lab. I went to a job to key some locks. I threw the shop Emerald wedge kit in the vehicle and took off. Went to the job, did it all great, and driving back to the shop after the work, I went over a speed bump. Not any faster than you would go over a speed bump, but I heard an amount of rattling in the back that was abnormally greater than I expected from the pin kit. Because when you close the top and you latch it down, the pins shouldn't move. It sounded like these pins really moved. And I pulled over, I got out, and I looked in the back, and I latched them, but did not pull the latches tight. And when I opened up the top, it was, while the lid didn't open and no pins spilled out, when you looked at the top of the kit, every pins were completely in incorrect compartments. Absolutely. As if someone shook the kit, put all the pieces back nice, neat, and clean, and that's it. So that was a shame. My cousin actually spent time during projects and measured every single one of them, and it took him a year to do it, but he restored the kit perfectly, which was, of course, you're saying, well, that was silly to do. Sure, but when you have 2 minutes a day that you're doing nothing, waiting for something, measure a pin, stick it in the right area. So he did that. I felt horrible for that year walking past him, seeing him with a caliper for 2 minutes a day. Taught me to never do that again, which I've never done that again. Any questions on the lab? 108 FP1, short, small format, Aero, Falcon, Schlage, Keymark, Springs, or any other lab product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.